So the two parts to a time signature, as I discussed the other day, is that there's a top note which tells you beats per measure, okay? And then there's the bottom note which tells you which note gets the beat. Which note gets the beat. Okay? Don't worry about this bottom part. That's completely non-important, at least at this point in the stage of like understanding time signatures. What you really want to worry about is this top part, beats per measure. So if something were to say, you know, like that, you might have seen it. You might have seen 8/8. You might have seen 7/16. You might have seen 4/4, 2/2. Give me a second. So the way that works is that the trick is all in the bottom note. Okay. Now, this here, you've got to think, is that if there's a 2 here, you only have mainly four notes in music. You have your whole note, you have your half note, you have your quarter note, and you have your eighth note. All right. The bottom note, which note gets the beat? If you see a 4, it's telling you quarter note. If you see an 8, it's telling you eighth note. If you see a 2, it's telling you half note. And if you see a 1, it's telling you whole note. Okay? Now, this seems confusing. Just think. 4/4, this is 4 beats per measure. So what's a beat? Okay? A beat would be, for example, your metronome. So here's a little metronome that I have here. There we go. Okay? Here's a metronome. Okay? So 1, 2, ready, go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's what your drummer would be playing to. So just think is that your metronome, your beat, is really just a pulse of the piece of music. Pulse, pulse, pulse. So let's take this and say beats per measure. Okay? For example, a clock is 60 beats per measure because there's 60 beats per minute. Okay? And every minute there's 60 pulses. There's 60 seconds. So 4/4. 4 beats per measure, and in this example, the quarter note gets the beat. Okay? So if you want to get specific with it, just know that when something's in 4/4, it's telling you that there's got to be 4 quarter notes in that beat. Okay? All right, so check this out. When you're in 2/2, it's telling you that there's 2 half notes in a measure. 4/4 is that there's 4 quarter notes. Okay? When something's in 7/16, it's saying that there's 7/16 notes in a measure. I didn't write that down. That gets to be a little much. 16 note has 2 flags. 7/16. Okay, there's 7/16 notes in a measure. 8/8. There's 8/8 notes in a measure. So you're probably saying to yourself, "Hey, Walt, all this jargon's great, but how do I apply it?" Well, it's actually quite simple. Check this out. You have a piece of music here. Okay, let me draw a treble clef. This marker's about to die. It's had a good run though. And let me go up here. All right, if you have your treble clef, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Here's your key signature. Let's put it in with 1 sharp key G, and let's make it in 4/4. Well, there's got to be 4 quarter notes in this measure. Absolutely. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then there you have one measure. And let's put a line right here. All right. Now, if you want to, you don't necessarily have to have exactly 4 quarter notes. What it's really saying is that you have to have either 4 quarter notes or the duration of 4 quarter notes. And remember, a quarter note gets 1 beat. So 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 4 beats in this measure. Well, remember what I said. Half note gets 2 beats. Quarter notes get 1 beat. Right? So you could also, if I were to expand this, in the next measure, you could very well have 2 half notes. And that would be perfectly fine. And in the next measure, you could have a whole note. But, and this is a big but though too, is that if you, even for a second, were to put another quarter note in this measure, or, you know, like here, then this time signature is now obsolete in this measure. Because look at what we have. We have a half note, which is 2 beats, we have a quarter note which gets 1 beat, and we have another half note which gets 2 more beats. Here we have 5 beats in this measure. 2 plus 1 plus 2 is 5 beats in that measure. Well, here, your time signature told me that you can only have 4 beats in this measure. So here, I got to do one of two things. All right, I either have to erase this quarter note, or I have to now tell you that we're in a measure of 5/4. Because now we have 5 beats in that measure, no longer 4 beats in that measure. Okay? Now, let's expand this further. Now, by the way, this is no different than all the music that you've been reading throughout your whole life. Okay? So, if I wanted to make this look, you know, I guess a little bit more legit, like this, all I would do is I would bring this down. I would go maybe up and something like that. So now you're starting to see how a piece of music is written, is that there's only 2 parts to music: pitch and rhythm. Wow, there's nature there. Pitch and rhythm. That's it. Oh, you can't even say it. Pitch and rhythm. Okay? So now what we're working on right now is rhythm. If you wanted to do pitch, instead of having them all be on the same note, throw them around, then that's how you get a piece of music. Now there's nothing wrong with having it be on the same pitch, but just know that there's only 2 parts to music: pitch and rhythm. And then there's other there's other what they call embellishments, and that's things like putting a tie here, or maybe putting a fermata here, or maybe making this a trill, or sliding this note down, things like that, or maybe putting a trill here, or whatever. And so now you're starting to get into like an actual piece of music. Now, not every piece of music has to be embellished like that. Just know that that's how you would make it more human. Okay, so let me erase this, and let's look at the bottom notes now. Okay, the bottom note, remember, was which note gets the beat. So if I were to make this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, okay, if I were to move this down and make this 7/16, let's think real quick. Like, that seems like a really, really tough thing, but it's really not, because think, 7/16, okay, remember what I said, whole notes get 4 beats, but when you're going in the bottom note, which is telling you which note gets the beat, your whole note's written out as a 1, half note as a 2, quarter note as a 4, eighth note as an 8, and then your 16th note as a 16. Oh, you can't even see that. I gotta go down further. 16th note as a 16. So now, 7/16, there's got to be 7 16th notes in that measure. So let's do this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and make them 7 16th notes. Boom. Here we have a measure of 7/16. Okay? If I wanted to also do another measure of 7/16, I can do a quarter note, okay? And I'll do an 8th note and then a 16th note. There we go. There's another measure of 7/16. And I hope this makes sense to everyone, because if it doesn't, I'll take a minute really quick and then explain it. So here we have 7 16th notes. Well, think. A 16th note, remember, let me write this out. 16 notes get 1/4 of a beat. And a quarter note gets 1 beat. So in reality, check it out, you need 4 16th notes to make up 1 beat. You need 4 16th notes to make up 1 quarter note, because a quarter note gets a beat. So let's go back here, and let's look at the fact that there's 7 16th notes, and this next measure, I have a quarter note, 8th note, and then a 16th note. This quarter note actually is 4 16th notes. It's the same duration as 4 16th notes. This is a miniature 16th note. Okay? This 8th note gets the same